Hey, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this edition of Hypnosis Week Live. Yes, it's me again here with you on Sunday. It's Alex Williams-Smith, better known to many of you as Jonathan Royal, the British bad boy of hypnosis. And this week, I have got a lady on the show who many of you may have already heard about. You may have seen her speaking at one of the many hypnotherapy conferences around the world. Or you may indeed have read one of her books, such as No More Diets or the Virtual Gastric Band Workbook, both available on Amazon and all major bookstores. She recently got in 2019 the Hypnotist of the Year award from the International Association of Counsellors and Therapists. That's a mouthful when you've not had much coffee in the morning. She doesn't so much call herself a hypnotherapist, although she is. She terms herself a lifestyle engineer. We'll find out more about that in a minute. But she is most famously known within the industry for her work in pioneering the hypnotic gastric band. So please welcome to the show, Sheila Granger.
Hello. Nice to be here.
You too. How are you doing? So look, yeah, you are mainly known for, I know you do a whole bunch of other stuff, but you are mainly known for the hypnotic gastric band stuff. Can you tell the viewers, because there must have been a time in your life when you weren't involved in hypnosis or anything like that, just give them a little bit of your background about how you ended up getting into this crazy industry.
Yeah, I mean, like most of us, none of us were at school, were we, thinking, do you know, when I grow up, I think I want to be a hypnotist. I think I wanted to be a journalist at one point, actually. But what I ended up doing was I worked for the government, for the Social Security Office, pensions, and I worked for them for 20 years as a fraud investigator. And I investigated people who weren't quite as disabled as they claimed to be. And my job was to investigate them, you know, go out with my secret squirrel camera, get the evidence and present it to them and take them to court, you know, get some money back. And it sounds really negative, but on some level, I think, you know, I was probably using hypnosis then anyway. I just didn't realise it. You know, I think a lot of the time, we're using hypnosis all the time, aren't we? We're just not aware that that's what it is. And in that case, when I was doing that job, you know, I used to go around to somebody's house unannounced with an allegation. And I used to come away and they used to say, thanks ever so much, love, for coming to see us. Yeah, thanks ever so much for coming to see us. If you ever pass in and you want a cup of tea, you know, you don't hesitate, you come and see us. And I used to think, do they not understand that? Like, I'm going to prosecute them, you know. Whereas somebody else used to go and they used to sort of be highly, you know, aggressive, other staff were assaulted when they were going with allegations. And really, it was about how I was speaking to that person, what that rapport was. Ultimately, I was just building massive rapport. And so it became very difficult for them to say to me, you know, we're not going to admit it, or, you know, we're going to be horrible to you, you know. So I think I was probably using it on some level. But I'd had an interest in how it is that people think, you know, what is it that makes people tick? And at the same time, I was also a magistrate for a period of time.
All right. Yeah.
Brilliant for people watching. And that also made you think, you know, how do people end up in this situation? What experience in their life has then led them to make that decision to do whatever it is they've done? You know, we all have the choices, don't we? And at what point has that changed, or, you know? So then I saw a hypnotherapy training course. And I thought, well, that might be interesting. And I was a bit of a serial course goer, a bit of a librarian. I liked going on courses. I liked learning stuff, you know. Most stuff that I did absolutely nothing with at all, but I liked going and learning it.
What's the most bonkers course you ever did then that you've done nothing with?
I mean, even some of the, you know, like the tarot kind of stuff. Or I remember my parents, you know, when I first started up in hypnosis and I wanted to build it as a business, and I still worked for the job centre at the time. And my parents saying to me, you know, what are you wasting your time with this mumbo jumbo stuff for when you've got this good job? What are you doing that for? And it's true, isn't it? When we start off in this profession, it's often not our family and friends who are necessarily our best support or our best advocate. They just think, "What are you doing?" you know. So I went on this course. I never intended to do anything with it. At the same time, I was getting a divorce, and there was only me and my daughter at home, only me to pay the bills. And I thought, well, if I saw a couple of people a week and I charged 50 quid a session, well, it's a bit of extra pocket money. But then I think, like all of us, you notice the difference you make to somebody's life. And when somebody says, you changed my life, I was like, have I? Oh, I want to do more of that. And then you also even start to, but I think, oh, maybe this shit works then. Maybe this shit actually works. Because I think we all sometimes have that little bit of self-doubt when we start off but has it worked really? When you start seeing clients or, they say, oh, this change has happened. Has it really? Or, is it going to stay there? Is it going to stick? But that drive, sort of takes over for you to do more and more and more of it. And that's really sort of what happened with me. I'd only been qualified a week, and I think it takes, some people call it bravery, some people call it stupidity, but it's taking that leap of faith, isn't it? In that I'd been qualified a week. I wasn't somebody who'd done a load of practice. I wasn't a great student, and I saw a plea for help in my local newspaper, and it was a lady who had hiccuped for 5.5 years continuously.
Okay.
And so I thought, oh, I might ring that newspaper up. And so I rang the newspaper up and said, I'm a hypnotherapist, because I got a certificate that says I am. So
Excellent. Yeah.
So I've got this certificate. So I'm a hypnotherapist, and I think I might be able to help that lady. So I'd like to offer a complimentary session. If she'd like to take me up on it, just tell her to ring my number. It will be arranged. The following day, and I frantically, the following day, they rang up and they said, oh, this lady, we're going to bring her to see you, and we're going to bring her and film it for our website, if that's all right. And it's like, oh, no pressure there then.
And this is within a week of having got your certificate?
Yes.
Excellent. That's ballsy. Go on.
Within a week. And so when they said they were bringing her to see me, I thought, well, that's all right. I just need to find a script. I just need to look in one of these textbooks where there must be a script on hiccuping. There was nothing. There was nothing. I was online, well, didn't do as much online then, but there was nothing. I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, they've come in, they've got the cameras. What am I going to do? I thought, well, it's all right. I'll find out more about the lady when she comes. She was really quiet. All I got out of her was she was getting a divorce. She worked as a cleaner. She mopped floors in a bingo place. That was her job. But she was really, really quiet. So when you look at, I'll pick up on people's language patterns and jump into their world. That's all I had to go on literally. Bingo hall, mop it, cleaner, getting divorced. That's all I had. Nothing else at all.
Okay, that doesn't sound like much, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So really nothing to go on at all. And the newspapers are there, the cameras are rolling. I'm starting my hypnotic induction thinking, is an angel going to appear in this room? What to say to this lady, because at the moment, I have absolutely no idea, and I'm already on 6, So I just thought, okay, just go with what you know then. Just go with what you know. And I thought, just keep it simple. So I just said, I want you to imagine what the inside of your throat looks like. Maybe it needs a bit of a clean.
Yeah.
Maybe it needs cleaning. I'm going to go quiet, but, clean it all up. When you've done that, nod your head so I know. Have it looking how it should look. Nodded her head. Got her to imagine, a messy room, put stuff in boxes for the past, the future, the now. She stopped hiccuping. And, she hasn't hiccuped since. And so the following day, newspaper, write a full-page article, how I was some kind of change expert, and the phone rings off the hook, because if I can help that lady do that, I'm sure I can help with da-di-da-di-da. Yeah. So, but it's just been I think, and somebody once said a phrase to me which rings true all the time, is that there can only be one hypnotist in the room. And with that lady was, very clearly, she allowed me to be the hypnotist in the room. She had a belief that maybe this was something that was going to help her. And she did have the resources to fix herself. She just didn't know how to view it from the way that she views the world. So, it's putting those things together that seem to be the magic ingredient.
Let me throw, and I'm not taking away from your achievement, because that is absolutely ballsy to do that straight off, and hats off to you. And it just proves that the only real thing standing in the way of most people being where they are, thinking, I need more clients, whether they've just started or the years into it, and actually, getting somewhere closer to where they want to be, is quite often taking action and just having the, excuse the phrase, but having the balls to do something that's out of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
So hats off to you, but this is aimed at people in our industry, and I'm known as being a bit different in my views. So do you think that maybe the reason, obviously what you did, she attached importance to it and it worked. That's all that matters. Ultimately, whatever happens from this moment in this conversation, that's all that matters. You got the result. Excellent.
Yeah.
But do you think that perhaps it was a case of, because I genuinely believe a lot of people that come to therapists, they come and they've already reached a point where deep down they know it's time to stop whatever it is, or it's time to start doing something they weren't doing. But they also know deep down, maybe it's just unconsciously, but like the little niggle in the back, that if they suddenly stop doing what they were doing, so they suddenly stop smoking, people are going to go, why didn't you do it sooner? If it was that easy, why didn't you do it sooner? And that's what often causes relapse when people, but if they go and see a therapist like your good self, they can leave and make those changes that they always could have done themselves, but they've got like a security blanket where they can't be blamed for not having done it sooner, because they can say, well, I tried, but it wasn't that simple. Thank God I saw this expert who helped me. And it gives them permission to offload that self-blame, shame, guilt and regret for not having done it sooner. Do you think that, combined with the fact that people don't often feel special and having a problem can bring them attention, but here was an opportunity to get publicised in the local newspaper?
Special. I'm still special. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I agree with you entirely in everything that you said. And that being special thing is something that often, I went to do some work with or potentially do some work with a celebrity. And this particular celebrity was famous for I've carried, I think it was something like 150 operations for cosmetic surgery. She was supposedly addicted to cosmetic surgery. Now, and her whole identity and persona was around being that person.
Yeah.
She made a lot of money on the back of that. That made her very special. She had a Sky television program on it. She'd been to celebrity whatever camp in America about it.
Right, okay. We can't say the name, but that's talking. Everyone pretty much will know if they take those bits of information, yeah.
Yeah, now, I remember going and seeing her. And again, I haven't been qualified that long, to be honest with you. But I remember going and visiting her at her home in London. And, she wanted to do some work with me with this. But she also, you would have thought, oh, well, it's a great opportunity. She also wanted me as part of this Sky television programme that was going out. And so on one level, I'm thinking, well, this is a fantastic opportunity. Yes, it would be great. But when I sat back and thought about it, it was going to actually be really difficult for me to give her a good enough reason to not do it anymore. Because how was I going to replace that identity that she'd got, or help her find it? Because it was going to be about helping her find a new identity that was still going to make her be special, which was still going to make her a lot of money. There was going to be all those hurdles to get over. And how she was at the time, I didn't feel there was going to be a good enough benefit to doing any of this.
Yeah.
And so I actually pulled back from doing it. And I also thought, you know, that she gave me the impression that, you know, she was probably a little bit fickle as well, in that, you know, you could, like, I'm 4 hours from London in the car, and, you know, you can imagine you've got an appointment to go every Monday morning at 9 o'clock, and you get all the way down there, and then you're like, oh yeah, sorry, I can't do it today. You know, so you just wait out your whole day because, you know.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm not going to get into that. And I would have loved to have done the work with her, because, yeah, of course, there was things that we could have done, but, you know, she wasn't wanting to look at any other way apart from, well, I'll just stop doing it. Well, are we going to earn any money then? And who are you going to be as a person? What's your identity going to be? Because I think whatever habit, or a lot of our habits, behaviours, you know, they come from a place of, it becomes our identity, doesn't it? It's who we are as a person, and how are we going to change that? You know, you know, I was adopted when I was 6 weeks old, and I traced my birth mum 15 years ago, something like that. And, you know, it's a success story, got on really well. But she had complete renal failure about 5 years ago. And dialysis has become who she is as a person now. You know, because it's almost like dialysis has become a job. So it's, you know, all she talks about. You know, I am now a specialist, to be honest with you, in dialysis and needles and fluid, and, you know, because I've heard it all so much, because it's who she is, and you know, if she doesn't have that, who is she as a person? So I think there's a whole host of things that come into the work that we do, and you know, what we can do to help somebody.
I think what you've just been saying, Laura, is monumentally, without doubt, the vast majority, if not pretty much all the time, the key bloody to the problem, but also the key to success, in so much as, will they, well, I mean, the fancy term is how many secondary gains have they got, is, you know, what they're going to lose out on, are they getting attention from the current behaviours, habits, thoughts, or whatever. And I think that is a massive part of what we do, without a doubt, even when it seems completely illogical, because, you know, I mean, you must have seen it with people who are massively overweight, will consciously say they want to lose weight, but by the same token, quite often they've got that way because it's getting them attention.
Yeah, and sometimes the other way, in that if they lose the weight, they will get attention, and they don't want the attention. So I remember working with a lady. She was actually probably one of my first Gastric Band clients, who lost a lot, you know, so 140 pounds, like 10 stone or something. And I remember saying to her one day after the session, if it was like a reinforcement session, I became a little bit of a comfort blanket to her, really. And so she used to come periodically just to get things reinforced. Not that she actually needed to, because she was doing all the new things, but she felt it kept her on track. And I remember saying to her, you know, if you were honest, do you feel happier now that you've lost 10 stone? Or did you feel happier how you were before? And she said, if I'm honest, she said, in a way, I felt happier before, because I wasn't exposed then. You know, I could walk into a room and nobody would take any notice of me at all. Whereas now I feel like people are noticing me. I feel, and that's the word that she used, was exposed. So when people have got a lot of weight to lose, there are all those.
You then probably worked on confidence and
exactly. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, it's not as simple as, you know, somebody's got a lot of weight to lose. It's not as simple as, well, okay, eat less and exercise more, is it? We've got other elements of that we've got to address. You know, it's funny because I've just this morning, just before our call, I've just given an interview to a New Zealand journalist. They're doing a big article on gastric band hypnosis. It's really big in New Zealand at the moment, and the media seem to be on it all the time. And you know, I was sort of saying to him, you know, it's not, you know, people have this perception, okay, well, we're just going to imagine surgery, and that's going to solve everybody's issues, and they're going to get thin, and we don't have to do anything else at all. And that is not the reality of it. You know, the reality of it is that is one element that can be put in place, but we've got to work on the other stuff as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, because otherwise, I mean, don't get me wrong, that lady who lost the 10 stone, she was a great client for Gastric Band. You know, she was somebody who was like highly suggestible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if we were just to imagine surgery and do nothing else, it's a bit like the stage hypnotist who's got, you know, a few people performing at the end of the show because they've got the most suggestible people up there, etc. But unfortunately, in our office, we can't fire all the people who are no good at hypnosis. We can't say,
No.
"Oh, yes, you're actually going to be rubbish at this, so can you leave, please?" You know, we've got to work with it, whatever presents itself. But this, you know, this lady, it was the Gastric Band that had done it. Yeah, everything else, because she could have dismissed it. You know, she was just like, yes, I feel like I've got it. And I remember she sent me a message and said, you know, Christmas is coming. I might eat a bit more. Why don't you tighten the band up? So I'm like, yeah, all right then. So she came in and we'll tighten it up. And she texted me the next day and said, how tight have you made this? Because I can hardly eat anything at all. But you know, the type of people are in the minority who, you know, let's just imagine surgery and do nothing else at all. Because that gastric band side of things, I view it as we need to put the foundations back of eating back in place. You know, we've almost been bombarded so much by the diet industry that we don't know what we're doing, what's right and what's wrong. And we've stopped doing, you know, the basic things. You know, let's take it back to, okay, so if we eat 3 times a day, if we focus on what our body tells us, you know, and we start building up those layers whilst also looking at all the associations and identities and everything else that comes into place. But you know, yeah, I'm known for gastric band, but most people would think, oh yeah, it's just about getting to imagine surgery. And it really isn't, because that wouldn't bring the results that it's bringing.
I'm so glad that that's what you've just said, because, well, that's just deleted 3 or 4 questions I was going to ask and play devil's advocate on, because you've come out with that. I can't go, oh, wow, but what is?
Oh.
So, but it's, I mean, that ties in with exactly what I believe, and my experience is, one thing I'm going to throw in, because I'm sure you must have encountered this at some point, is there is that sense of identity thing, but some people who get overweight, it is literally like the cliche of it, it's like they're putting on layers of protection. There could be underlying abuse issues from childhood.
Yeah. I mean, with everything, isn't it? It's like we're all doing something in one way, shape, or form to soothe our soul. And you know, it's what are we soothing, or what are we covering up, or you know, and that be for anything, be it with eating, smoking, drugs, whatever it is. You know, it's finding out, okay, what is that thing that we're covering up all the time. You know, like a lady that I saw yesterday, who's recently just started some sessions with me. You know, she's not, you know, massively overweight, but yeah, she wants to lose a bit. But in her mind, she's like, oh, but I don't want to be thin. I don't want to be skinny. So they're almost contradicting themselves in the language that they're using. It's almost like, I want to lose weight, but I don't want to lose weight. You know, it's because that's helping them on some level, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's finding out what that level is. And again, with the way that I approach like the gastric band stuff, I know other people who are doing similar programs might approach it in a different way. But I start it off where actually we're going to start this off with the gastric band stuff. I'm going to give you some guidelines to follow. We're just going to put some foundations in place. And then I'll start to work on the fallout from that afterwards. What comes up afterwards? And the reason I do it that way is because I don't want to immediately make this into, you know, a digging session, because the person's come to you thinking, you know, you've got a magic wand. I want you to wave your magic wand on the first session and make me feel better.
Yeah.
And so I want to wave a magic wand on the first session, because, and if I do that and they've bought into a program, they're going to, by charging people in advance, they're going to come for all the sessions. That's going to give me the opportunity so that they actually have the therapy that they need, as opposed to...
Yeah, they got what they expected.
They got what they expected. And the other thing about, if I said to somebody, well, you can pay it weekly as you come along, and they haven't got a magic wand in the first session, or there's been a session where they thought, oh, I don't know if I wanted to uncover that, then they might not come for the rest of the sessions because they haven't paid, but then they're not getting the therapy that they need either. So, the one thing sort of with, like Gastric Band as well, it's a great marketing tool, because a lot of the time we're bringing into our office people who are highly suggestible.
Yeah.
So they can already imagine that. I can already imagine Gastric Band. Let me present myself at your office.
Yeah.
So it is bringing those people in, but it's bringing them in, and it's not under pretense, because we are going to do that. But it's, it's then an opportunity for us to do the proper work.
Yeah, excellent. How many on average, sort of? There's always exceptions to the rule, I know, but on average, how many sort of sessions do you normally do when they've booked for Gastric Band?
So I always book a 4-session program. So I want 4 sessions with somebody. Okay. Now, occasionally that may end up being more. Like you say, if there's some, if some use type of things gone on, or then we may need more sessions. But on average, it's 4 sessions to get the foundations in and get those habits going routinely. Because I'm looking for somebody at the end of the sessions to say, yeah, I'm doing all these things automatically without even thinking about it, just like what I was doing before without thinking about it. If somebody's still saying to me, yeah, I'm doing these things, but I'm still having to make real effort to do it. Well, that's not become a routine then, has it? Yeah. We've got more work to do. So, and generally that can happen. Well, to be fair, it can happen in 2 sessions. Sometimes people are making those noises after 2 sessions. But it's how many layers there are of the onion, doesn't it? If there's not that many layers, then we can probably bring about change faster.
Would you still, if it appeared that it was sorted in 2 sessions, would you still see them for the follow?
No. So the way I work, and again, I know that everybody's different, but yeah, somebody has paid me for 4 sessions. So, but I'm a big believer in that once we've got the change and somebody's doing what we want them to do, and they're doing it without effort, and they're happy, that we should actually take our foot off the accelerator. Because I'd like to say that, I'm an expert and I know exactly what I've said that's brought about the change with somebody. But the reality is, like, I fired a machine gun at somebody, with the way the suggestions are done, with metaphors, with aversions. I've absolutely at somebody. And I'd like to think that I know which bullet went home. But the reality is I probably don't. So
that's so honest. I love that, because I'm a great believer in that. Yeah. What I put together for habits and addictions, the script I wrote is such that it is, like you've just said, it's got every flipping so-called principle and technique in it, that if there is any value to them, other than the fact it's important seeming ritualistic placebo and they bought into it, if there is some element in them, then one of them at least has got to bloody help the client. And it doesn't really matter which it is, does it, as long as they get the result?
Exactly. And so, but using that same principle, I think, well, if I don't know what's made the change, I don't want to be waffling on about something again and run the risk of undoing it, of their subconscious, if that's what we've got, a subconscious. I know there's different views now of what's really happening, but, I don't want their subconscious, I don't like what you've just said, so I'm now going to reverse it all. I want to think, right, okay, foot off the accelerator, let's stop there and then. And I explain it to a client. I suggest to a client that we actually defer the other sessions, or that we spread them out over a longer period of time. So, okay, we've still got 2 sessions left here. How about that I actually support you over a longer period of time, and that I see you again in 3 weeks or a month, or whenever they feel comfortable, and we put it in the diary then. I say, if in the meantime, if you suddenly think, oh my goodness, I'm losing the plot, Not that that will happen. But, you know, just ring me and I'll see you earlier. But a client actually quite likes that because you are supporting them over a longer period of time.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a benefit to them.
Yeah. And the way I explain it to them in sort of a simple way that they can understand, I just say, you know, somebody came to me and they had a fear of spiders and I fixed the fear, but I went on and on and on and on about spiders. I can probably bring that fear back again.
Yeah.
You know, so while somebody's doing, why don't we stop? You know, so it's about, I think it's about, knowing what we know, but it's doing what you think is right and treat other people how you would want to be treated yourself.
Excellent. So much insight in that. So I've got to ask you, because I mean, we kind of covered Gastric Band there, and I think you covered that incredibly concisely but wonderfully. You've consistently shown yourself to be good at generating media publicity and coverage. And that's something that, can you give us some insight? I know you've already told us literally when you started out, it was a case of jumping on an opportunity and actually thinking, you know what, I'll take action and pick up the phone and suggest. Have you got any more insights in that? Yeah, because people who are watching, I'm sure that's something that's a major mental block. They'll think it can't really be as easy as that, can it?
And it really is. In a way, it is as easy as that. I mean, sometimes with media, it's about timing, isn't it? So, you know, you can, you know, send the media a press release and they don't pick it up and you think, oh, well, they're not interested, or, you know, you offer to do something and they don't follow up on it. And that's not necessarily because they're not interested. It's just they're not interested right then at that moment because they've got their own agenda. But I think the thing is and I think the big thing that holds people back is fear with it. You know, what if the media write that I'm a load of rubbish and I'm a charlatan? What if they write that? Well, you know, why would they? You know, that it's not why would that be newsworthy? You know, if one of the things that we can all easily do,
I can answer that, but anyway.
One of the things we can easily do is in our local area, we can pick up the phone, we can ring, find out who the journalists are, come and test my programme for free. Now, if that journalist comes and does that, then they are going to write about it. Now, if it doesn't work, say if you did the work and it didn't work, it was the worst client imaginable that just turned up as this journalist and it didn't work, they're not going to write about it, because why would that be newsworthy? And what would they actually say? Sheila Granger offered me complimentary sessions. She did all this work. I didn't do any of the things that she asked me to do, but I took advantage of all the time and it didn't work. You know, so what? Who's even interested?
Yeah.
So, you know, the media are only going to discredit us or attempt to discredit us if we do something that's potentially discreditable. So, like, one of the things, like, I often get asked on like Q&A calls on Gastric Band type of training courses, you know, could I do Gastric Band hypnosis with children? And I always say, well, I would advise against it. There's lots of other tools in that toolbox that would help children, but you know, you don't want to be doing anything that would be termed as unethical. You know, because you can imagine the media headline: hypnotist doing Gastric Band with children, and that potential backlash. Why would you open yourself up to that? You know, what would be the point? So, you know, they're good, but, you know, we've got an in with the media all of the time because hypnosis is something that's a little bit different. That's when we play on it being a little bit, oh, this is a little bit quirky. And so we've already, and to get land a newspaper article, it has to be seen to be something different. So that's number one. Hypnosis already is something different.
Yeah.
The second thing is it's got to be newsworthy. You know, so would their readership be interested in it? And the other thing, a lot of the time, it has to have a human angle. So we can't do blatant self-promotion. You know, they don't write about you necessarily just because you're a hypnotist. And, you know, obviously with newspapers as well, or magazines, television, we don't see what's written until it appears. So we don't have any jurisdiction over it. And But, you know, I've consistently, like I said, used the media because it's a great platform for, you know, sharing what it is that you can do and educating people that there are potentials, alternatives to get the help that they need. So I've done, you know, invite the journalist along. I've done group sessions where I've invited the media to independently verify the results that I've had. So that's how Gastric Band started off. You know, I asked for 25 volunteers. I'd just heard of a concept of gastric mind band, and I thought, what a load of rubbish, that won't work with somebody. But at the time, 80% of my clients were coming for weight loss, and it wasn't working that well.
Mm.
So I read an article about gastric band, and I thought, well, I'll give it a go then. So I asked for 25 volunteers. Nobody paid me any money. Right, you know, invited the media along to independently verify the results that I got. You know, the only worrying thing was that the media printed an article to say this trial was taking place, and I thought, oh shit, you know, what if it don't work? You know, well, they're probably not going to write about it then. So I, you know, 25 people in a group session, 23 reported positive results. 2 people cancelled gastric bypass operations on the back of what they experienced.
Oh,
and,
nice angle.
and immediately following it, it was BBC primetime television, double page spread in the local newspaper, being played as a news item on the hour, every hour on the radio. Now, when you think about media, it's really like free advertising, isn't it? They're providing social proof that what you do works.
Mm-hmm.
Because people, you know, what they read in the media, they believe, you know, it's programming, isn't it? So they, I know at the time when that happened to me, there was only me working for me, a mobile phone. And, you know, I really wasn't prepared for what that drops on your doorstep. You know, I used to turn on my email and it was like inquiry, 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 inquiry. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do with all of this? So, you know, like media can really, you know, sort of explode your business big time. And, you know, we've all got stories as hypnotists where we've either got a human angle where somebody's had some bizarre thing and, you know, we've helped them with hypnosis. And not every client is going to want to put the face in front of the media. And I don't put any pressure on anybody to do that. I will ask them, I'll say, you know, would you be willing to share your story with the media so that more people are aware about it? Now, if you say, oh, I don't really fancy that, that's that. End of conversation. End of conversation. But a lot of our clients who we work with, they really love us as a person. If do this, you know, and almost that law of reciprocation kicks in, doesn't it? And they think, you know, so if you ask them, they'll probably say yes.
I've often found, just casually pointing out, that we're one of the women's magazines to pick up on this. Don't worry, you can have the 250, 300, 350 or 400 quid for the story that they'll pay. Quite often motivates them.
Yeah. And then, you know, you can write a press release, and I'm quite happy to. I mean, I've got, you know, lots of professionally written press releases because they do follow a certain format, if you like, in how they're put together. And, you know, I've got ones that I've used for all sorts of areas in the practice, from natural childbirth to charity days to whatever. And if anybody watching this, you know, wants that, you know, those press releases, because all you really need to do is rub out the name Sheila Granger and write their name in it instead. You know, I don't want anything coming back to me. I just, you know, it just give people ideas, and it's more the creativity of it, isn't it? It's, you know, then they can just email me and I will send them complimentary.
Wow, that's amazingly generous. Nice one. Where would they find your email address? What's your website address?
Yes, so we're not going to say my website address for today because, if I'm honest, I've had a complete web disaster this week. So I'm actually having a new website rebuilt, and my old one, unfortunately, turned off.
You know, this won't be going live for a couple of weeks, and then we can put the link underneath the video.
So my website's www.sheilagranger.com, and my email is think@sheilagranger.com.
Oh, that's nice and easy to remember.
Just needs to email me, and I will let people have those press releases just to give them some idea of creativity and how to put things together.
Well, that is, thank you. I mean, that's an amazingly generous, but I mean, it is. It sounds. I know some people watching think, hang on a minute. She must be barking mad. She's just offered us a template that she successfully to get media. Why? Well, I can probably guess that, because the fact is there is one other element with the media in my experience. Sometimes they might want to run a story, and everything about you as the person who's put that press release in fits, except for some reason, for whatever reason, that journalist has decided they want a male hypnotherapist, not a female one, or vice versa. It can often be, sometimes it's not actually about you, why you don't end up with the story. It can just be because they've got some preconceived notion.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I think it's like with every aspect of our practice and what we do, is we've just got to keep pushing the button, pushing the go button again, because I have this, like in some of the workshops that I do, I talk about, when you're building a practice, it's like the Rain Man, the Rain Man in the jungle, and he used to, people used to ask the Rain Man if he wanted it to rain, and he used to dance, and he would dance until it rained. And it's a bit like that with your practice. If you're not getting the clients or the exposure or whatever, it's because you're not dancing enough. Because all I've learned to do, because I don't come from any, like I said, I was a main fraud investigator. I don't come from any business, marketing, therapy background. I've just learned that, if you put the graft in and if you dance enough, it will rain. And I just dance enough so it rains.
Excellent. Now, the thing is, media we've talked about, but I do know that you do, not everything's reliant on the media. And neither should it be, because there'll be times when they're too busy with so-called real news that they're just not going to cover stuff. And I know that you do workshops on practice building and stuff, which obviously people can contact you and check out your website and whatnot. What are the sort of other main ways these could, I mean, back in the day, when I say back in the day, I'm going back like, I feel old, 30 years ago. The mainstay for therapists was an ad in the Yellow Pages. Now, that's just throwing money down the drain.
Yeah.
So what are the main non-media ways that you kind of would advise people to be looking into?
So I'm, although I do stuff, internationally, as my main thing is about hypnosis in the community. Because although we can get online clients these days, and I do a lot of work on Zoom, to my mind, where I can make the biggest difference is locally, is in my local community. And that's probably, when I was building a business up or a practice, that's where the majority of my clients were going to come from, my local community, 3 streets down. So we've almost got to become a known in our local community. How do we put ourselves out there so we can be found? And, if we were to put a dot on the map where my practice is, how many people within a 50-mile radius know about you and what you do? And probably not very many. If we're on social media, so we all think, oh yeah, we can see what the people are doing. Most people don't even see our marketing message, because they're too busy doing their own thing. So how do we make that face-to-face connection, and people more than any other profession buy into you as a person? And that's when they decide it's you they want to see, and it doesn't matter if you cost more than the hypnotist down the road. It's you that they want to see, because it's you that they bought into. So we've got to become visible, haven't we? We've got to be visible, we've got to be credible, and I've done that by infiltrating my local community, and by putting the graft in. So I do business networking. Business networking has been one of the number one things that's helped grow my business. So I'd, turn up at a business networking group every Thursday morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. I did B&I, if those of you have heard B&I. It sounds like horrendous to most people. But
the getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning bit does. I'm not so bothered about the networking. But
yeah, I know it's horrendous. I hated it the night before. It might used to be on a Thursday morning, 7 o'clock. I hated it on a Wednesday night, the thought of getting up. I hated it on the Thursday morning when the alarm went off. But once I actually got there, it was really, it really did a lot of good from a lot of angles, from the point of view of my own personal development, from learning to do public speaking, to having the confidence to spread my message, but also getting connected to people that you want to speak to. So, it's a great way of getting personal introductions to people. So I'll give you an example. I thought one day, why don't I do a fear of flying seminar at an airport? Why don't I do that? So I thought, well, I need to talk.
It seems to be something of a habit for you, just having a random.
Yeah. So I thought, why don't I do that? So I thought, how do I get to talk to the person at the airport? Because of course, if we pick the phone up and say, yes, I'm a hypnotist, could I talk to the person who could organise a fear of flying seminar? They'd be like, yeah, not interested, bye. We're not going to get through the gatekeeper. So networking can be a great way of getting through the gatekeeper. And so I'd stand up and say something like, good morning, everybody. My name is Sheila Granger. I'm a professional clinical hypnotherapist. And, what makes me professional compared to the next person? Absolutely nothing. But it sounds different, doesn't it? I'm not any old hypnotist, I'm a professional one. Yeah. So good morning, everybody. I'm Sheila Granger, I'm a professional clinical hypnotherapist, and this week I'm looking for your help to a personal introduction to Mr. Joe Smith. Mr. Joe Smith is a commercial director at Humberside Airport. The reason I'd like to speak to him is that 25% of people do not fly because of fear. I'd like to help Mr. Joe Smith increase his passenger numbers whilst doing something very positive in the local community. So that's Sheila Granger looking to speak to Mr. Joe Smith. Mm-hmm. So I've given a reason why he would want to talk to me. What's in it for him?
Yeah.
I'm not selling hypnosis here. I'm selling, I might be able to increase his passenger numbers.
Yeah.
And so he then took a photo, somebody in the room knew him, they made the call and said, would you take a call from this lady? I know her. And, you've got your first in. Then it's down to me what I'm going to do on that phone call.
Mm-hmm.
But so, you can get to, but of course, you're always asking you've got a different pitch to give every week. And my networking group had perhaps 30 people in it, 30 different businesses. So no one of the same, all who work with people all day. So in effect, what I'm doing is standing up and instructing my sales team to look for work for me.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. Because I know a lot of people are put off from going to these networking meetings. All right, partly because get up so early, but we'll push that one out of the way. Partly because they're like, we've got to stand up at some point, and perhaps the imposter syndrome. Well, the chances are there's not going to be another hypnotherapist in the room. Highly unlikely. But that, yeah. I like that. You're just instructing your sales team. That's an interesting way of looking at it.
So all of a sudden, I've got 30 people looking for work for me instead of just me.
Excellent.
So there's the media, the business networking, and then the third thing has to be public speaking. It's giving presentations, and there's so many, not even thinking about the traditional sort of women's institute type of approach, but even if you think about sports teams, how many little kids sports teams are there? And because I always find, even if I didn't want work for sports, but I'd go and give a presentation to a sports team, and I'd always come away with work. Can you help me with my sleep? Could you help me do this? Could you? And I'd send out letters to sports teams, and the letter would go a little bit like this. I'm a local professional clinical hypnotherapist, and I run a very busy full-time practice, but once a month I like to put something back into the local community. With this in mind, this month I'd like to offer your sports team 1 hour of free psychological skills training. This has been shown to increase confidence, get rid of negative self-talk, help people perform at their best, and it matters most. This would be of interest to your team. Please contact me on this number, be arranged. And then I'd go an hour and teach them some, I think with anything, whether we're teaching self-hypnosis or, you know, we want to give value on that presentation, you know, because the people remember you. But I always find doing things like that, you know, one thing, just giving something back. And if you study any successful business, they all give back. And I look for areas in my community where it's already topical news. And how can I make any difference to that? So last year, homelessness in my area was a big issue. It had a lot of bad press all the time. And in my networking group, there was a lady who was involved with a charity that worked with the homeless. And just out of a conversation with her, she was saying, well, you know, one of the things that, you know, keeps people getting back into society is confidence. And I thought, well, I can't change anything to do with homelessness, but I can do stuff about confidence. So I put on a VIP day for the homeless. I got the use of a hotel room for free because I was, you know, it's like a community give back. I got a celebrity hairdresser to come and do makeovers for them, haircuts. I got a clothing company who would give them new outfits. I got a recruitment company who would help them write CVs. I did a big thing on confidence. At the end of the day, we went out with a plea to businesses just to give them some work experience, not to give them a job because that was a step too far, just to give some work experience. And we got businesses then coming forward saying, yeah, we'll do that. But as a result of that, which of course isn't normally my target audience, but as a result of doing that, and talk about media, BBC News come along to film it. So there's always, I always think, you know, if we give back, the universe somehow has a way of paying us back somehow. But there are just so many different avenues where we can make a difference potentially with hypnosis that it's just, I've just learned to, I suppose, keep my ear out for it. You know, it's listening in the right way, isn't it?
Having listened to your answers so far, something's occurred to me, and you may have already done this, but if you haven't, do it. I know you do your workshops on marketing and stuff, so you no doubt have notes and stuff that you give people, but you know, you're giving a couple of examples of how to phrase letters to get through the door, or phrase press releases. A book with press release examples and letter examples that you've done before, I think would be a remarkably good tool that would sell well to therapists. The examples you've just given, I think your phraseology is perfect.
Yeah, it's like that's what it is, isn't it? It's how do I put that together to make it, you know, sort of tick the boxes, you know. And because if we do that, then, you know, because I always say, you know, it's not about selling hypnosis, because people aren't buying hypnosis. You know, if I go and work with a business or a sales team, I'm not selling hypnosis to them. Or if I go and, you know, the classic example is like I've done a lot of work in schools and colleges with kids predominantly around exam stress time. But I found that once you have your foot in the door with the school or the college, they ask you for the next thing and the next thing, and can you do this and can you do that and can you do that? You know, so it starts off with exam stress, but it ends up in multiple areas. But like if I approached the school and said, can I hypnotise the kids? They're like, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely not. But if I said, you know, could I use some relaxation and mind management techniques to help them perform at their best? Oh yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
But by the same token, you know, I don't shy away from the fact that I am a hypnotist. That is what I do, because on my business card it simply has my photograph and it says Sheila Granger, professional clinical hypnotherapist. Nothing else on there at all. But it's just how we, like I say, how we're phrasing things, isn't it, that gets our foot in the door.
Yeah, making it acceptable to them and desirable.
Yes.
You're still going in there and hypnotising them, aren't you? It's just you're calling it mind management.
Exactly. I always remember the first school, and it was when I didn't realise at this time that the school was a potential thing that could run as a business, that it was something that schools would pay for. And again, it was part of this a bit like community give back. So I approached this one school and used that phrase, and I went in to do the first session, and they were all in a group in this class, and the headmaster said to me, can I sit in on your session? And I'm like, well, I guess so, because it's your school. So I guess I have to say yes. And I always find that when you don't want any head drop going on, that it happens, So there was a couple, they're all sat in like a U shape, doing this hypnotic induction, and two at the back suddenly went, boom. And I'm like, oh, that was very not great timing. But the headmaster looked at me as I said, I thought you weren't doing any hypnosis. I'm like, they're just relaxed. They're just relaxed.
Excellent.
So, but what's interesting, and then it wasn't until the year later that school rang me back and said, oh, you came in last year and you did this stuff with the kids and it was really beneficial. How much would you charge to come and do it again this year? That I realised that actually this was something that was wanted and needed by schools.
Yeah. Nice.
So that's ended up being another avenue, if you like, that I'm in quite a lot is schools and colleges. And again, a lot of the time it's getting our foot in the door. It's all about our marketing, isn't it? And how we get our foot in the door. So at one point I was doing assemblies. So I'll come to your school.
School assemblies.
School assembly.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll come into the school and basically give a presentation, lecture, whatever you want to call it, on exam performance.
Mm-hmm.
So positive mental attitude, whatever you want to do. But what I found by doing that was that because they all they like motivational kind of speaking stuff anyway, don't they? If it's a school local, what is it? I'm going to give half an hour of my time somewhere. It's hardly going to be a big deal. But by that, the school are buying you as a person. And then you get the opportunity to talk about something else that you can do. So sometimes I think it's about giving a bit of our time for free in an area that we know we can make a little bit of a difference to. And then it's what's next, what comes after it.
Yeah.
And what I found with doing the assemblies, which became more of a thing to do them, is even when I was booked to deliver proper sessions in the school, the assembly would still be done because the students would self-identify themselves having a problem. So the students would listen to what I had to say. Mm-hmm. They would then go to the teachers afterwards and say, I like what that lady had to say. Can I take part in her group sessions? Because I've been feeling a little bit like that. And the school knew nothing that they were feeling like that. And I think schools and colleges is a good place for us to be as hypnotherapists, because mental health is all big businesses in it and big news all the time. But also, what if we do something about, if we can do something about the lower level and what I would class as lower level anxieties, then hopefully it might prevent them escalating.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah.
And it's like, so rather than be teenagers with ending up going to the CAMS teams and everything else, or being on long waiting lists thinking I have a problem, so I'm special and I keep hold of the problem and the problem gets worse. Why don't we do what if we can do something on the, on the lower level stuff that stops it escalating in the first place?
Excellent. Great. Oh, bloody hell, time's running away. We're nearly at the hour, so I'm going to have to kind of move this towards the question I ask him. There's so much valuable content. You are amazingly generous in sharing your knowledge, and I cannot encourage people enough that you watch this again with a pen and paper in hand. Take notes, number one. Number two, then write down the email address and contact Sheila, because what she offered, that's an amazing resource. And obviously check out her website and see when there's courses taking place, not just in your location, but also in your country, because you do regularly appear at hypnotherapy conferences around the world. So I know if you're in Australia, you're thinking it's a bit far to come, but the chances are at some point in the future, Sheila will be at a conference over there. So keep an eye out. Thank you, Sheila. Before we go, I'm going to ask you the question I ask everybody at the end of these interviews, and that is, if your door was to be knocked on right now and you answered the door and there was somebody stood there and they perhaps, because this is your area's hypnotherapy, so we'll say randomly they've got Dave Almond's green covered or blue covered, depending on which edition, book, Hypnotherapy in their hands. I've just read this and I'm thinking, I'd like to become a hypnotherapist. What would your top 3 bits of advice to steer them on the right course to success be?
I was talking about somebody who's already qualified, or they just want to come into the profession.
No, all they've read, all they've done is they've got a copy of Dave Almond's book, for example. That's it. They've just finished reading that and decided, I reckon I need to find out more about this. I'd like to do it as a career. So
it's a career, yeah. I mean, if somebody's looking at going into it as a career, I don't think it's necessary. Well, it is. Everybody goes into it at different levels, don't they? So some people might think, I only want to go on a short course, and then I'll start to build on that, and then I might go on a longer course, and or I might get more qualifications in that. But it's like with anything, isn't it? It's like we've got to press start somewhere, and often with this journey, we don't know where we're going to end up. We don't come into this journey of learning hypnosis knowing exactly what we're going to do with it or where that path's going to lead us to. But I would say, and it's about, not just necessarily reading the Dave Almond stuff, but taking lots of different people's views and theories and, because all trainers really are going to share their experiences. And some of their experiences will resonate with you and some of them won't. But also not be sort of put the blinkers on to, I've heard that person, they've got a bit of a reputation of being an ego, so I'm not even going to look at their stuff because, we put the blinkers up, don't we? And as soon as we put the blinkers up, we stop learning. Because I know from conferences, places that I go, that often, there'll just be like one little golden nugget that'll actually change how we think about everything. You learn that one golden nugget that you think, I'm going to give that a go. And it actually makes a massive difference. So it's about being open, isn't it? And, learning from as many people as you possibly can. And then going away and doing the do. We can't we can't be good at it by reading books.
No.
We can't be good at it by watching online videos. We get good by, a bit like I've done, just thinking, well, what the heck, let's just go and see what happens then. And not being too, of course, you are worried a little bit about the outcome, because if we didn't care, then we shouldn't be in this profession, should we? So of course you care, but it's about putting your ego to one side and thinking, well, okay, maybe I can make a difference to this, because the worst thing that we're going to do really with hypnosis is nothing. Hopefully the worst, I'm not going to make anybody any worse. Hopefully I'm only ever going to make them better. And so, the more you read into it, the more you can put those practices into your own life as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time. It has been an absolute pleasure, Sheila. Just remind everyone of your website addresses again.
Yes, the website is SheilaGranger.com, and my email is thinking at SheilaGranger.com. And and I always try to, as much as possible, sort of support other hypnotherapists, because we all come across, especially when we're starting up, we all come across those clients where we think, I'm not quite sure what to do with this person. Or now I don't think any of us are fond of all knowledge, and I'm certainly not the font of all knowledge, but I have worked with a lot of people, so there's probably not something that somebody's going to come across that that I haven't already faced myself at some point. And I'm always happy to give some email advice or have a Zoom with somebody, and just share a bit of support, really. So I'm always glad to hear from any other therapists at all. But thank you for this opportunity. It's been great.
And as I say to everyone, get a pad and pen, watch these again, take notes, because there's so much content. And go on Amazon and seek out Virtual Gastric Band Workbook and No More Diets, full of tips and stuff if you want to be doing stuff of that nature in the industry. Thank you again. Thank you, viewers at home. Please join me next Sunday when another edition of Hypnosis Week will go live. Bye for now.